What's up, beautiful people? It's an amazing first weekend of summer. I'm going to take you guys through an awesome push workout. I'm going to show you some potentially new machines, new movements you may not have seen before. You guys are going to want to check this out.
All right, so we're going to start with some chest. This is the Flex Leverage remake. Haven't had this very long from the company Mega Mass Fitness in Houston. I'm going to superset from the steepest angle to the shallowest angle. The adjustability on this is pretty cool compared to the original. Lots of different cool features the original does not have. So I also use this block here because it's easier on my shoulder. So you can see this is the steepest angle. Start with a block on there, it drops, it makes it a little easier. The thing I like about that is the higher up your angle is, the better your convergence is. So I want that weight horn ending as high as possible. Even still, that's the issue with this machine. There's a couple issues. One of them is it's just too hard in the contracted position. I'm going to fix that. This is me showing you the shallowest angle. That's the cool feature of this. This is about 20 degrees-ish. I'll have to measure it for you. But that's the cool thing with this machine is the ability to get a much more shallow angle, which is much easier on the shoulders. Much better pressing lane for pure chest rather than a lot of deltoid. So once I modify this machine, it's going to be 10 times better, but it's still a decent machine. I mean, the same exact machine as the Flexed, but could use some modifications to make it a much better machine. I'm still getting the feel for it, but the strength curve is such that it's best if the weight is moderate. If it's a 6 to 8 rep max, it's not ideal necessarily. Then we're going to do a shoulder press movement. This Panada piece I've had for about a month. After about a half a dozen, almost a dozen uses, this thing has really grown on me. I didn't like it as much initially, but the more I use it, the more I really like it. And surprisingly enough, the leverage is perfect on this. That being said, there actually is a taper at the very top of the movement. So really cool. If, I kind of stick my rear end out to make it a slightly better angle, pressing angle for me. But I do like the leverage feel on this, and I do like the fact that it's got a pre-stretched foot lever, and I like the fact that it gets easier at the end. And then a couple more chest movements with this Nautilus Nitro Pec Fly. The stretch on this thing is phenomenal. I still prefer to put a pillow behind my back to accentuate the stretch as much as possible, and supersetting with the elbows in the crux of there, and then to use my hands on the actual pads itself. It's a cool technique to use this machine. I think a couple more chest movements. This is the Stairmaster seated chest press. I'm not sure I've highlighted this before. Fantastic piece. It's got a pre-stretched foot lever. Very comfortable. These neutral handles are money. They really allow kind of a hybrid fly / press. Just a cool line of machines. You can see there's great convergence on this, but kind of, again, shooting for like an 8 to 10 rep max, back and forth, 2 or 3 supersets with the Pec Fly. Still prefer to do superset type fashion for a lot of my training because of the effect on the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, not just the myofibrillar hypertrophy. And I think just 3 or 4 sets on this slight incline fly with these start track handles. It's always just a go-to movement for me because it's controlled on the 20-degree bench. It allows me a nice stretch and a nice contraction. I'm trying to keep my elbows wide and really keep my shoulder blades retracted, my scapula retracted, so that I'm getting a full stretch and I'm allowing my pec fibers to do the work and not my shoulders. So it's kind of just a nuanced technique you have to play around with, but you're keeping your shoulders wide and you're letting the elbows drive the movement, not necessarily the hands. Makes a huge difference as far as intent here and stimulation of the upper chest. So check this out. I've got this scap strap. They sell this online. You can essentially do the same thing with 2 chains or 2 ropes and get a similar effect. But the boomerang effect, you can see the boomerang effect of having it just on 1 cable rather than 2. This is a rear delt superset I've just fallen in love with, where I'm kind of supersetting wide, and then I'm supersetting where my elbows are bent and flexing back. There's kind of this window of range of motion where the rear delts are really firing, and it's not as much back. So that's kind of the range of motion right there. It's just sort of a narrow, slightly narrow range of motion. I'm supersetting this standing version to kind of a, I'll show you in just a second, a bent over version, but this scap strap has come in real handy for lots of different movements, particularly this this rear delt type of movement or face pull type movement. So you can see I superset that, slightly bent over and lean forward. My hands at a slight angle. I find this angle right here is perfect for rear delt stimulation. Not completely up to the side, not completely to the top. It's kind of a hybrid in between angle. And I'm going from my elbow slightly bent to more bent. So you can do this with dumbbells too. You can mimic and recreate these angles on like a bent over bench, and it's very similar. The cable tension tends to be a little bit better, I find, a little bit easier to control than using dumbbells, but I still love using dumbbells for this as well. But you can't ever train your rear delts too much. That's my view. I'm going to hit some medial delt with this Cybex kneeling lateral raise, one of my favorites. You can see the cool thing, the way I have it situated is it's right next to my paramount total shoulder, so I can actually brace my back against my paramount total shoulder. Couldn't do that in commercial gym, but I don't care. But I'm doing 21s with these, so the top range and then the bottom range and then the full range. So you definitely have to use a much lighter weight. My shoulders respond much better to higher reps. The lower rep lateral raises just don't work because the form's crap. But then I'm kind of doing the full range. You can see where I'm raising it all the way up and doing a slow negative. It's just a phenomenal way to train. And this machine really puts you in the right position. I like to have even an additional pad. I like to have that chest pad all the way out and the arms positioned slightly in front of me, not to my side, because it really goes right along the scapular plane and gets much more phenomenal stimulation. So just a great machine, supersetting it and then drop setting it with the weight stack. Very, very smooth.
So check this out, guys. The Strayer barbell. So I've got a couple clips of me on my Instagram using this. I'm going to show you using this for triceps. Thing will absolutely fry every head of your tricep with this 3-set mechanical drop set.
So literally probably my favorite specialty bar. There's so many things you can do with this. So I'm going to superset from hardest to easiest with my hands in front of this long pad to in between the long pad and then a push press. So the cool thing with this is it's kind of like you can see where the weight is in relation to my hands. I'm actually, when I start this, the first movement, it's hardest at the end. The second movement, it's hardest at the middle, and then the end movement, you can see I'm just doing a push press. But there's so many things you can do with this bar. I love this thing for biceps and triceps. But this is one of my new favorite ways to train triceps because it's so freaking effective. Here's just a different angle. You can see with my hands in front, it's making the very end of the motion extremely hard. And then my hands go in between after I've done as many reps as I can with this weight. And it's slightly easier, but still there's a good contraction at the end, but it's slightly more mid-range focus. And then you'll see after I do as many as I can there, I take my hands out and I just do kind of a push press to hit the short head of the triceps. So I always love doing decline easy tricep extensions, and now this just makes it much, much better. Slightly different angle. You can see just keeping tension on my triceps the whole time, where my triceps are slightly behind me, and then I'm just kind of doing a push press again. Just a phenomenal bar. I have to show you all sorts of cool things you can do with it. Someone needs to remake this.
So as always, like, comment, subscribe below. This gym is ever evolving. It is absolutely destined to be the best private training facility in the freaking world. I can promise you that.